A judge strikes down the federal mask mandate on transportation, leading to layers of confusion. Shots fired not far from the state capitol. A lockdown for legislators. Your next question: who chooses Colorado's Secretary of State if Tina Peters gets elected and convicted? A Republican sues to add his name to the ballot as he runs for Congress. The nickname he claims he has is a popular insult against the president. And looking for land in the Denver metro area to build a whole campus dedicated to helping people escape homelessness. All that is next.
Mask confusion. Federal judge's decision today to throw out the mask mandate for transportation has both the Denver International Airport and RTD scrambling this afternoon, as now individual airlines are beginning to announce their own rules. It's being left up to them after the White House said that it's going to review the ruling. And in the meantime, the TSA will not enforce mask rules on transportation for the first time in years. So we immediately reached out to RTD and DIA. RTD says it has nothing to say about the shift and that they consider the mask mandate to be in effect for the time being. Out at the airport, DIA said they don't know what this means for them either, but they told us within the last hour that they want people to carry a mask. I guess in case somebody out there tries to tell you the rule's still in effect. We're hearing from airline passengers boarding now who say that they're seeing some people just drop the masks immediately without any kind of repercussion or scolding. United, largest carrier at DIA, said it is moving immediately to a mask optional model, and Alaska Airlines said the same. The Justice Department has not yet said if it plans to appeal the ruling. As for the CDC, it just extended the mandate last week and is still encouraging people to choose to wear masks on transportation. COVID-19 test positivity rate's been creeping back up through the month of April. 4.6% of tests have come back positive over the last 7 days. That number is nearly double what it was at the end of March, but is still considered low based on all of our peaks throughout the pandemic. It's over 5% when public health leaders start to get concerned that the virus is beginning to spread out of control in a particular community. Gunshots near Civic Center Station forced some state legislators to shelter in place this afternoon. Denver police say that those shots were fired near Broadway and Colfax just before 4 o'clock. So it's blocked from the Capitol. No one was injured, but that order came at the state capitol. People need to stay where they were for their own safety. It lasted about 15 minutes. Denver police have not said what led up to this shooting and have not offered word one about any suspects. Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters could again be removed from her duties overseeing elections in her county, while she simultaneously faces a felony indictment for allegedly tampering with voting systems. Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold is suing to keep Peters from overseeing elections this year. Peters was removed from her role as elections director last year through a lawsuit. That only applied to the 2021 election. The lawsuit heard in court today would bar Clerk Peters from overseeing the 2022 election. She's essentially admitted to breaching her own voting system security to leak files to fellow conspiracy theorists. The Secretary of State gave Clerk Peters the chance to continue running elections in Mesa County as long as she agreed to outside supervision. The clerk refused. There's no decision from the court today on this. They're going to continue it later this week.
Tonight's next question is from Kevin, curious on who would appoint a successor if Peters wins that election and is also convicted of a felony for tampering with her county's voting systems.
So Peters won top line on the Republican primary ballot pretty easily. She's become a real star in her party for embracing the conspiracy theories that our elections are rigged. Peters is also facing felony charges in an unsuccessful attempt to find that fraud. State law says she can run for office while under indictment, even after a conviction, but state law says you cannot serve from prison. If Peters is elected Secretary of State in November and convicted and sentenced to prison, it would be the governor who picks her successor. Governor has the power to fill vacancies for the office of Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Attorney General. So as of now, that would be Democratic Governor Jared Polis, but of course, he too is up for election in November. Send us your questions about politicians going to prison or anything else. Record a video or audio message with the question and email to next@9news.com. Democrats in the state legislature today advanced a bill designed to prevent against insider attacks on our elections. It would keep county elections officials from giving access to voting system hard drives to outsiders unless they get permission from the Secretary of State. It would also prevent somebody from serving as an election official if they've been convicted of an election offense, sedition, insurrection, treason, or conspiracy to overthrow the government. That passed Senate committee on a party line vote today. Democrats in favor, Republicans against. One Republican running for Congress in Colorado wants to use a slur against President Joe Biden as his nickname right there on the ballot. State Representative Dave Williams is challenging Congressman Doug Lamborn, who represents Colorado Springs. Williams won the top line on the primary ballot, and now he's filed a lawsuit to get his name printed on the primary ballot as Doug Let's Go Brandon Williams. Phrase is not a particularly clever or subtle way of saying F Joe Biden. According to Williams' lawsuit, Democratic Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold rejected the nickname, saying that it was a slogan, not a nickname. And I got his name wrong. It's not Doug, it's Dave. This is not the first time a candidate has tried to do this. Remember Blake No Mandates Law, who ran for the Thompson School Board? He argued he went by the nickname No Mandates long enough that he wanted it to appear on the ballot. And sure enough, it appeared that way on ballots in Larimer, Boulder, and Weld counties. Blake No Mandates Law lost the race. Colorado does allow candidates to include one nickname on the ballot if they use it regularly and if it does not include any part of a political party's name. As for the Let's Go Brandon thing, the Secretary of State's office told us today that they do not believe that that nickname is a good faith use of the rule. It will be decided in court. There are, in fact, centrist Republicans left in Colorado. There's just not very many of them in positions of authority. It came up in a conversation that we had recently with one such legislator at the state capitol, who is often quite alone in the middle of our politics. Republican State Senator Kevin Priola. We asked him how he looks at recent events like the Republican State Assembly, where election rigging conspiracy theories and extremist views won the day, with his own brand of politics.
I will say, I've knocked on tens of thousands of doors through the years, and I think I have a pretty good feeling of where most voters are, most Republican voters, most unaffiliated voters, and even many Democrat voters. And in the end of the day, they want us to solve problems and fix things and try to come to some kind of consensus. Sometimes folks that want to spend a Saturday politicking, they're maybe at the extremes of a certain political perspective, and that's their prerogative.
Priola passed on a run for Colorado's newly created 8th congressional district. When we talk about legislation at the state capitol being bipartisan, Democrats, of course, control both sides of it. There's a good chance that the bipartisan part is Priola. So the state is searching for land in the Denver metro area that could be turned into a campus to house hundreds of people currently living on the streets, a place where they'd be offered addiction recovery and mental health services. It's a $15 million plan talked about today. There's a similar effort to repurpose the state-owned Ridgeview Youth Services Center in Aurora to address homelessness. The governor and his Democratic allies outlined their ideas today, with State Senator Julie Gonzalez talking about the importance of having a roof over your head.
I live in an affordable housing unit myself, and it's the only reason that I'm able to stand before you as a state senator today, because access to affordable and safe and secure housing changed my life.
Democrats are also proposing a $105 million grant program for emergency shelters, transitional housing, job training. And they announced today that Democrats who control the legislature plan to use $50 million in pandemic relief money that was earmarked for local governments to also address the issue of homelessness. The fact is, there are a few Coloradans who are going to be able to stay in their homes safe and comfortable because of your work last week through your Word of Thanks Microgiving campaign. You raised nearly $40,000 for the nonprofit Brothers Redevelopment and their home modification and repair program. So that's going to go toward building wheelchair ramps and accessible showers and needed electrical and plumbing repairs. $5 at a time. You have now done $8.9 million worth of good around our state. So which nonprofit should we help out together next? Email your ideas to me at next@9news.com. I read each and every one. We will be back with your 98th weekly microgiving campaign on Wednesday.
I'm fed up, like a lot of people in the area, so I wanted to do something about it.
If you can put together a whole photo album of horrible crashes on your street, well, that suggests that there's an issue. At Jefferson County High School, we'll start looking for a new leader after a controversial choice backs out. That's next.
You'll hear people say, I hope it doesn't take somebody getting killed. Well, we are past that point in Denver's East Colfax neighborhood, where there has been one bad crash after another. The latest killed somebody yesterday. Steve Steger's along now, and Steve, you talked with a neighbor who's pretty frustrated about this. Others are too, and it points at how difficult it can be to call attention to problem spots in our streets.
Yeah, Matt Pierce sent a long, angry email to Denver's traffic division this morning, and he CC'd us on that email. He says he has lived in his house on Syracuse between 13th and 14th for 7 years, and he says he's witnessed too many crashes in that area to count. So we decided to count. A quick analysis of Denver's traffic crash data shows 72 crashes in the last 9 years at the intersections of 13th in Syracuse and 14th in Syracuse. 5 people have been seriously injured in those crashes, and yesterday, police say a driver blew through a red light at Syracuse and 14th, T-boning another vehicle, killing a passenger in that car. Matt Pierce has a collection of pictures on his phone of crashes that he has witnessed there. He and his neighbors have emailed the city warning of drivers blowing through red lights and speeding all the time, causing wrecks that are hard to forget, wrecks that are traumatic not only to the people involved, but the neighbors who witness them, who become de facto first responders.
We've pulled unconscious people out of cars. We've had a lot of cars flipped upside down. A lot of the fences around here and the light poles and the traffic poles have all been destroyed and replaced multiple times. And yesterday, the fatality was the worst I've seen.
Now, what are the major issues in that area? 13th and 14th. They are 2 lanes wide and one way, with Syracuse being one of the first traffic lights you see in a while. There's an overhaul planned along those roads to try to calm traffic using curb bump outs for pedestrian paint and some posts there, hopefully to try to get drivers to slow down. It's only 30 miles an hour there. And since there's been a death in that crash yesterday, the city will now review the police report, then send out a team to look at potential short-term and long-term fixes. I asked what people should do if they find themselves in a situation like Matt and his neighbors, where they know that there is a problem. How do you get their attention? The city simply suggests call 311.
Oh, good luck with that. Is the fatality review an automatic thing? If there's a fatality, then they review that area, or
yes, that is part of Vision Zero now. So part of the city's plan to end all traffic deaths by the year 2030. They now go to the scene. They send a team to the scene of every traffic death in the city to look at it and see if there's anything they can do in the short term, potentially plan for in the long term. You might see if someone dies on, say, Colfax, you might see that area with a little bump out and maybe some posts in the road to try to give pedestrians an easier way to cross, or somewhere where they might be able to calm the traffic down, get those speeds down, because on a lot of these roadways where you have really wide streets, there's just this tendency for drivers to go fast.
Yeah, I think that they can open it up. You don't often think about the trauma that inflicts on a neighborhood if they're coming out and seeing crashes and seeing people hurt again and again. Matt's perspective is really interesting.
He says he and his friends were in their backyard celebrating Easter, and then they just heard what sounded like an explosion, and then his wife saw the person inside the car. Something she'll never forget.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
A high school was willing to override its school district's concerns, but couldn't overcome opposition to its idea from within the community. And as Coloradans move on from the pandemic, a reminder of all the families who will not be whole again. That's next.
High school in Jefferson County is abandoning its plan to rehire a former principal been arrested for domestic violence and convicted of assault. Anthony Edwards will not be coming back to Devlin Junior Senior High after pushback from the community. He was recently named sole finalist for his old job despite his 2017 assault conviction. And also opposition from Jeffco schools, but Devlin's a Jeffco option school, so it controls its own hiring process. Committee announced today that Edwards has withdrawn from consideration. In an email sent to families, Devlin says he withdrew because of negative feedback and divisiveness in the community. So now the search restarts with the goal of finding Devlin a permanent principal later this year. May I make a recommendation? I'll point you towards something that isn't from us, but I think it's worth your time. The Atlantic's Ed Young has been an essential voice throughout the pandemic, and his latest piece, The Final Pandemic Betrayal, focuses on the grief of all the families who lost loved ones to a pandemic that people are now putting in the rearview mirror or just mocking outright. Young points out that COVID became the third most common cause of death for a time, which means that it is also the third most common cause of grief. And those who are grieving still deserve respect. I invite you to read his article. We've put a link on the Next Facebook page.
Well, today was actually a pretty nice day. We didn't have to deal with the wind that we've had to deal with over the last, seemingly a couple of weeks at this point. Unfortunately, it will return for your day tomorrow. But today, we did get up into the mid-60s here in Denver, a lot of 50s, 60s Eastern Plains, and 60s and 70s on up into the mountains. Tonight, gets down seasonably cool, upper 30s for us tonight, but it does turn breezy, and that's out ahead of what's going to be a very windy and warm day coming up for your Tuesday. Mostly sunny, but again, keep an eye on those winds. That will increase our fire danger. I know I sound like a broken record at this point. We are sick and tired of this wind and also of these just kind of exceptionally dry conditions. But on the, good side is it will be on the mild side with those temperatures near 80 degrees. By the way, our record high for tomorrow, 83 degrees. Can't entirely rule out that we get there. We'll probably stay a few degrees shy of that. But those winds, again, they ramp on up tonight and they'll increase during the day tomorrow. 25, 30 mile an hour winds for us, especially along that I-25 corridor. Eastern Plains may be a little lighter than that, but those winds do die back down in time for your Wednesday. 7-day forecast got a little bit of everything as we head over the next couple of days, at least temperature-wise. This weekend, we get some clouds back in the picture here, Kyle, but unfortunately, no meaningful rain over the course of the next 7 days.
It's a sign of contradictions and vulgarity. That and your feedback next. It's a sign of universal love. Well, unless you're from the government. Next viewer spotted this in Greeley. One Love is a local headshot up there with love for anything you can smoke, but no love for the government. Not one bit. You can imagine what word is underneath there. 4 letters. Can't use it on TV. Not even close. Send us the signs that make you look twice. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext. Longer piece of feedback tonight from Jake Mankin, who writes in via Twitter to say, was sitting on a United flight as they announced no more masks for the first time. When I tell you it was one of the wildest things I've ever witnessed. Captain and the flight attendant were greeting people at the door, letting them know it was optional. The masks and cheers as people boarded were amazing. Credit to the captain and the flight attendant, Jake says, for reminding people that if they feel safer, they can still wear one. Imagine that scene playing out. Hundreds or thousands of airplanes at once. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'll see you next time.